In the grand theater of life, we often find ourselves chasing a specific version of success, only to realize that the cost was far higher than we anticipated. 2 Samuel chapters 17 and 18 present a gripping drama of intellectual warfare, a tragic end to vanity, and a victory that feels like the deepest defeat. The story begins with a battle of wits between two brilliant minds, Ahithophel, the cold-blooded strategist, and Hushai, David's secret ally. Ahithophel suggests a swift, surgical strike to end David's life immediately. It was a perfect, pragmatic plan. However, Hushai intervenes by playing on Absalom's hidden vanity. He suggests a grand, cinematic battle where Absalom leads a massive army, like the sand on the seashore. Here, we see a timeless human flaw. Vanity often trumps strategy. Absalom, intoxicated by the idea of his own glory, chooses the flashy plan over the effective one. It reminds us that when we become obsessed with how we appear to the world, we lose the ability to make sound decisions. The tragic end of Ahithophel, who took his own life when his advice was ignored, serves as a somber warning that intelligence without a moral compass leads to a dead end. The drama shifts to the forest, where the actual battle takes place. In a striking piece of irony, Absalom's greatest pride, his magnificent, thick hair, becomes his downfall. As he rides through the woods, his hair gets caught in the branches of a large oak tree, leaving him dangling helplessly between heaven and earth. It is a chilling metaphor. The very things we are most proud of can become the traps that ensnare us. David, despite being the target of this rebellion, gives a singular, heart-wrenching command to his generals: "Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake." Yet, Joab, driven by the cold necessity of war, ignores the king's mercy and kills the trapped prince. The battle is won. The rebellion is crushed. David's throne is secure. By any political or military standard, this is a total victory. But look at the king. As the news of victory arrives, David does not celebrate. He does not ask about his kingdom. He asks only one thing: is the young man Absalom safe? When he learns of his son's death, he collapses in a grief that echoes through the centuries. "Oh, my son Absalom! My son Absalom! If only I had died instead of you! Oh, Absalom! My son, my son!" This cry is a powerful reminder of what truly matters. You can win the world, secure your position, and defeat every rival. But if you lose the people you love in the process, the victory is hollow. David's grief reveals a love that is willing to sacrifice everything, even its own life, for a wayward child. As we navigate our own battles today, let us ask ourselves, what are we fighting for? Are we chasing the vanity of a grand image? Or are we protecting the hearts of those around us? David's tears teach us that true triumph is found not in standing atop a pile of defeated enemies, but in the enduring power of love and the courage to remain human even in the midst of war. O you who see the depths of our hearts and the complexity of our choices. Today, we reflect on the tragic clash of wisdom and vanity. We confess that we too often get caught up in how the world sees us, forgetting the quiet, essential values that truly sustain a life. Help us to recognize when our pride is becoming a trap, and give us the humility to listen to truth rather than flattery. Grant us the wisdom to prioritize people over positions. In our drive for success, let us never lose sight of the hearts of those we love. When we face conflict, give us a spirit of mercy like David's, and when we experience loss, help us to find meaning in the pain. May we be bridge builders in a world of walls, choosing the path of reconciliation over the path of destruction. We ask for the strength to be a source of peace for those who are wandering and a reminder of unconditional love to those who feel they have gone too far. Guide our steps today so that our victories may be filled with integrity and our hearts may remain soft. Amen. 2 Samuel 17-18. Ahithophel said to Absalom, "I would choose 12,000 men and set out tonight in pursuit of David. I would attack him while he is weary and weak. I would strike him with terror, and then all the people with him will flee. I would strike down only the king and bring all the people back to you. The return of all depends on the man you seek. Then all the people will be at peace." This plan seemed good to Absalom and to all the elders of Israel. But Absalom said, "Summon also Hushai the Archite, so we can hear what he has to say as well." When Hushai came to him, Absalom said, "Ahithophel has given this advice. Should we do what he says? If not, give us your opinion." Hushai replied to Absalom, "The advice Ahithophel has given is not good this time. You know your father and his men. They are fighters, and as fierce as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Besides, your father is an experienced soldier. He will not spend the night with the troops. Even now, he is hidden in a cave or some other place. If he should attack your troops first, whoever hears about it will say, 'There has been a slaughter among the troops who follow Absalom.' Then even the bravest soldier, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will melt with fear, for all Israel knows that your father is a fighter and that those with him are brave. So I advise you, let all Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, as numerous as the sand on the seashore, be gathered to you, with you yourself leading them into battle. Then we will attack him wherever he may be found, and we will settle on him as dew settles on the ground. Neither he nor any of his men will be left alive. If he withdraws into a city, then all Israel will bring ropes to that city, and we will drag it down to the valley until not so much as a pebble is left." Absalom and all the men of Israel said, "The advice of Hushai the Archite is better than that of Ahithophel." For the Lord had determined to frustrate the good advice of Ahithophel in order to bring disaster on Absalom. Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, "Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do such and such, but I have advised them to do so and so. Now send a message at once and tell David, 'Do not spend the night at the fords in the wilderness. Cross over without fail, or the king and all the people with him will be swallowed up.'" Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying at En-Rogel. A female servant was to go and inform them, and they were to go and tell King David, for they could not risk being seen entering the city. But a young man saw them and told Absalom. So the two of them left quickly and went to the house of a man in Bahurim. He had a well in his courtyard, and they climbed down into it. His wife took a covering and spread it over the mouth of the well and scattered grain over it, so no one knew anything about it. When Absalom's men came to the woman at the house, they asked, "Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" The woman answered them, "They passed by the brook." The men searched but found no one, so they returned to Jerusalem. After they had gone, the two men climbed out of the well and went to inform King David. They said to him, "Set out and cross the river at once. Ahithophel has advised such and such against you." So David and all the people with him set out and crossed the Jordan. By daybreak, no one was left who had not crossed the Jordan. When Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out for his house in his native town. He put his house in order and then hanged himself. So he died and was buried in his father's tomb. David went to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan with all the men of Israel. Absalom had appointed Amasa over the army in place of Joab. The Israelites and Absalom camped in the land of Gilead. When David arrived at Mahanaim, Shobi son of Naash from Rabbah of the Ammonites, and Machir son of Amiel from Lo-Debar, and Barzillai the Gileadite from Rogelim brought bedding and bowls and articles of pottery. They also brought wheat and barley, flour and roasted grain, beans and lentils, honey and curds, sheep and cheese from cow's milk for David and his people to eat. For they said, "The people have become exhausted and hungry and thirsty in the wilderness." David mustered the men who were with him and appointed over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. David sent out his troops, a third under the command of Joab, a third under Joab's brother Abishai son of Zeruiah, and a third under Ittai the Gittite. The king told the troops, "I myself will surely march out with you." But the men said, "You must not go out. If we are forced to flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care, but you are worth 10,000 of us. It would be better now for you to give us support from the city." The king answered, "I will do whatever seems best to you." So the king stood beside the gate while all his men marched out in units of hundreds and of thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, "Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake." And all the troops heard the king giving orders concerning Absalom to each of the commanders. The army marched into the field to fight Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. There Israel's troops were defeated by David's men, and the casualties that day were great, 20,000 men. The battle spread out over the whole countryside, and the forest swallowed up more men that day than the sword. Now Absalom happened to meet David's men. He was riding his mule, and as the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak, Absalom's hair got caught in the tree. He was left hanging in midair, while the mule he was riding kept on going. When one of the men saw what had happened, he told Joab, "I just saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree." Joab said to the man who had told him, "What? You saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right there? Then I would have had to give you 10 shekels of silver and a warrior's belt." But the man replied, "Even if 1,000 shekels of silver were weighed out into my hands, I would not lay a hand on the king's son. In our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, 'Protect the young man Absalom for my sake.' And if I had put my life in jeopardy, and nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me." Joab said, "I'm not going to wait like this for you." So he took 3 javelins in his hand and plunged them into Absalom's heart while Absalom was still alive in the oak tree. And 10 of Joab's armor-bearers surrounded Absalom, struck him, and killed him. Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped pursuing Israel, for Joab halted them. They took Absalom, threw him into a big pit in the forest, and piled up a large heap of rocks over him. Meanwhile, all the Israelites fled to their homes. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in the king's valley as a monument to himself, for he thought, "I have no son to carry on the memory of my name." He named the pillar after himself, and it is called Absalom's monument to this day. Now Ahimaaz son of Zadok said, "Let me run and take the news to the king that the Lord has vindicated him by delivering him from the hand of his enemies." "You are not the one to take the news today," Joab told him. "You may take the news another time, but you must not do so today, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to a Cushite, "Go, tell the king what you have seen." The Cushite bowed down before Joab and ran off. Ahimaaz son of Zadok again said to Joab, "Come what may, please let me run behind the Cushite." But Joab replied, "My son, why do you want to go? You don't have any news that will bring you a reward." He said, "Come what may, I want to run." So Joab said, "Run." Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. While David was sitting between the inner and outer gates, the watchman went up to the roof of the gateway by the wall. As he looked out, he saw a man running alone. The watchman called out to the king and reported it. The king said, "If he is alone, he must have good news." And the runner came closer and closer. Then the watchman saw another messenger running, and he shouted down to the gatekeeper, "Look, another man running alone." The king said, "He must be bringing news, too." The watchman said, "It seems to me that the running of the first one is like that of Ahimaaz son of Zadok." "He's a good man," the king said. "He comes with good news." Ahimaaz called out to the king, "All is well." He bowed down before the king with his face to the ground and said, "Praise be to the Lord your God. He has delivered up those who lifted their hands against my lord the king." The king asked, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" Ahimaaz answered, "I saw great confusion just as Joab was about to send the king's servant and me, your servant, but I don't know what it was." The king said, "Stand aside and wait here." So he stepped aside and stood there. Then the Cushite arrived and said, "My lord the king, hear the good news. The Lord has vindicated you today by delivering you from the hand of all who rose up against you." The king asked the Cushite, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" The Cushite replied, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to harm you be like that young man." The king was shaken. He went up to the room over the gateway and wept. As he went, he said, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son,